The third generation of an absolute icon. The new Maruti Suzuki Swift, India's most loved hatchback, is here. The new Swift adds some oomph and also a lot of modernity. So the new Swift certainly looks really contemporary, and a lot of that modernity is really coming in from the daytime running lights. The DRL and in fact the entire headlamp cluster is really well finished. The car's rear sports taillights that wrap around the fenders and complement the new design up front. The two-tone 15-inch alloys are only for the ZXi Plus or ZDi Plus, and they're nicely finished. The new Swift is 40mm wider and has a 20mm longer wheelbase, 58 litres more cargo space in the boot, and yet sits 10mm shorter than the outgoing car. The orange paintwork you see on the ZXi Plus here is a new shade, Lucent Orange. There's also a new dark midnight blue, a dark grey, white, silver, and yes, the trademark solid red. And yes, we have that too. The fire red car with me is the ZDi AGS. Now the face is a lot like the DZIRE's in terms of shape, but in terms of attribute, this one is a little sportier. The black treatment on the grille, certainly not as ostentatious looking as the one on the DZIRE. The headlamp is similar. Now this is not the plus on the ZDi, and which is why you don't have the daytime running light. To me, that's a bit of a miss. It should be a signature on the car, and frankly, if you ask me, Maruti should think about making that standard from the VDi or the VXi and upwards. I think that's a big miss. Kind of defines the character of the car and tells you it's brand new. Anyway, the proportions, very much Swift-like. We've talked about that constantly. I am very happy Maruti has retained the red as the primary color, because when you think Swift, you really think of this red color. The floating roof, it's a nice design feature, and it certainly begs the question, why no contrast roof? And I'm sure Maruti will offer that at some point, maybe under iCreate, or maybe subsequently on a different variant or a model that could come. Well, at least I hope so. The door handle for the rear door has been concealed up here in the pillar, and of course we've talked about that for months, so I'm not going to get into it. It will take some getting used to, and it makes the car look distinctly different. It's again a signature of the new Swift. Very, very pronounced haunches at the back, and again, speaking of signatures, that's definitely one of them. It lends a certain character and a certain modernity, this tail lamp treatment, to the car's overall design, because it also makes the car look nice and wide at the rear. It is a little bit wider, and it's trying to be a little bit roomier on the inside too. Let's take a look at how it is on the inside. I'm going to show you the interior of the ZXi Plus first, so you know just what all is on offer. There's a sense of width that you get from the design of this dash. That's intentional, and it kind of adds to that sense of space, something the Swift always desperately needed. The touchscreen here in the center is a carryover from some of the other models, so I won't get into its functionality. It's exactly the same as what you've seen on the S-Cross, the IGNIS, the BALENO, and of course, it gives you Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's only on the Plus, the ZXi Plus. Now, the climate control system is well executed. It's got these three dial-like things, and this is a screen in the middle of that, which looks really nice. And it's a feeling of sort of premiumness that you get from the plastics overall, and of course from the climate control in particular. Connectivity and charging options down here, nicely done again. And of course, this is the manual transmission, the flat bottom steering wheel, overall sense of plastics, again conveying that modernity. The little red rimmed dials have a nice retro quality to them. There is a screen in the middle that gives you lots of trip information, again a carryover from some of the other models. So overall, you're getting a sort of well-built feel from this cabin, and even though the overall finish is done in a sporty black, it still doesn't seem like it's cramped in any way. A little more of an indent or a curvature on this backrest and more under thigh support would have been great. The seat's not terribly comfortable, but what has definitely changed is the sense of space. Better headroom, decent amount of knee room and good amount of leg room compared to the previous Swift. The other little niggling point, a lot of the entry hatchbacks now do have rear AC vents. This car doesn't get that, but otherwise the big change is going to be that little enhancement of wheelbase, which really shows up back here. You don't feel a sense of being cramped. That was almost like a hallmark of the Swift. That's gone away. The rear of the cabin, definitely a lot roomier. So largely good, though a plumper rear seat would have been nice. Dual airbags and ABS are standard, and the car also gets ISOFIX child seat restraints on the rear bench. But the Plus variant is not what most people will end up buying. So, what are you getting on the mid variants? Now it is disappointing not to see that touchscreen on the ZDI. I mean, it's only on the Plus, which means a lot of those features aren't here as well. But this one is still well finished. It's integrated well. It still lends that feel of premiumness from the plastics, the width that I was talking about, and overall, the cabin still feels quite nice. The ZDI still does get the climate control system. I really like how that's been finished. The VXI and LXI don't get that though, and I have to say the lower variants will seem rather plain and old world. Maruti needed to have pushed the envelope a bit, given just how much is standard on cars like the Ford Figo and Hyundai Grand i10. Maruti will also do well to offer the AMT with the ZXI Plus and ZDI Plus trims, as many automatic buyers would want the DRLs and the touchscreen. I expect a variant subsequently, as we have seen happen with the IGNIS. Now I'm driving both the cars one by one. The petrol first, shall we? Now what Maruti has done is it's gone with its tried and tested duo of engines, the 1.2 and the 1.3. That's the 1.2 K12 petrol and the 1.3 DDiS or Fiat-derived diesel multi-jet. Now, here's the thing. I think it's most of us who are going to get really hassled about this, saying, why aren't we getting new engines? I mean, this is now the third Swift with the same engines. But think about it from the market and the buyers and the business case point of view for Maruti. It doesn't really need to bother. There's nothing wrong with these engines. They are nice and efficient. They're pretty peppy and exciting to drive. So, yeah, I get it. Doesn't really need to do much. Would it still have been nice to have new engines? The petrol engine comes across as refined and well-tuned, but its character is rather predictable given how well we know it from the old Swift and the Baleno and the IGNIS. I've driven the Swift in Europe with the 1-litre BOOSTERJET engine, and I have to say that that car is an admirable performer. That engine is raring to go, and I really wish we had that as the standard engine here. Having said that, the 1.2 certainly delivers the goods. It's pretty quick, it's nice and responsive. With the manual gearbox, it gives you really satisfying performance, and really is the pick of the pack for me when it comes to the 4 iterations that we are getting. Remember that you also get the AGS or the AMT version with this particular engine, and the numbers, they're on your screen now. They're looking pretty ample and they're absolutely unchanged from before. So yes, you get the 82 bhp, yes, you get the 113 Nm of torque. What has changed though is that optional 5-speed AMT. We live in hope, as there is an indication from Suzuki Japan that India will get the Swift Sport and also likely the petrol-electric hybrid model. So I do think that between now and 2020, Maruti will keep exciting us with much fun on the petrol Swift. Of course, there could be some customization fun too, with the contrast roof and other goodies being considered in the future as well. After all, the Swift has been a model that's traditionally been the most heavily customized by Maruti buyers. Now let's tell you about the diesel engine, shall we? Now, the diesel engine itself, an absolute gem of an engine. We know this really well. I don't need to praise it any further. It certainly does the job. It's got ample torque on it. Take a look at the numbers and you'll find, once again, like the petrol, they're unchanged from the outgoing models. Like the petrol, the diesel is extremely fun to drive. It handles really well, and the new platform has a better ride quality and a more sure-footed feel than the outgoing car. The diesel manual should have got the 90 bhp tune to the engine, in my opinion. It would have created a superb separation between the AMT and the manual too, and that would have created some fun and added to the car's sporty appeal. That said, the 74 bhp version is certainly not dull, though the AMT can be. So it takes some getting used to, and you'll find that overall the drivability with the AMT is very similar to what we've got on the DZIRE. So takes some getting used to, but certainly very convenient to have in city traffic, and I can see a lot of people opting for it. What I would have liked to see, of course, is Maruti offering the top end also as an option with the AMT in terms of trim, because again, I see a lot of people wanting that. The AMT is definitely a lot smoother and changes are quicker than what we've seen on Maruti's first AGS. The drivetrain feels almost exactly like it does on the new DZIRE though, and again I feel Maruti should have done more to give the Swift its own character. We will await mileage numbers from the company, though I reckon it will be a strong number on both diesel and petrol, given what we have seen on the DZIRE already. Prices are the only other unknown, and we'll get to know that when the car launches at the Auto Expo. Deliveries will also begin only then, though bookings are already open. I expect Maruti to keep prices close to that of the outgoing model, so brace yourselves for yet another massive Maruti blockbuster. And yes, if you want one, get in line quickly enough, as it will mean a long waiting too, for sure.